Earlier this year, my beloved Ford F150 Lightning Lariat, aka Adira Tal, well, it met with a bad fate. I was driving along an unpaved road. There was some snow on the ground. I hit some sheet ice underneath the snow, and despite only driving at 20 miles an hour, the truck slid downhill off the road and hit a power line, which then came down on top of the truck. I was okay, I walked away. Unfortunately, the truck did not, and the insurance company wrote that vehicle off. Luckily for me though, I was able to get all of the money back that I'd put into my original truck. And because of the finance packages that were available to me at the time I purchased this truck, I was able to get a really good deal on it. This is Ortegas. It is another F150 Lightning Lariat extended range. There's very little difference between this truck and Adira Tal. Adira Tal had the onboard scales, which Ortegas does not. There's a few other packages that weren't on this truck, but I'm going to be adding those features aftermarket, as it were, and I have some future videos planned on this channel just focusing on those. But today we're going to put a tonneau cover on. The last video we made on this truck, we installed this. This is the BedRug Impact bed liner. It's very good. It's what we originally had in Adira Tal. We purchased a new one to put in this truck, and if you haven't seen that install video, we'll leave a link to it in the down below. But today we're going to take care of covering up the bed, and for that we're going to be installing a rather pricey, I will admit, Retrax PowertraxPRO XR tonneau cover. That is a very long title. That is its official name. It's basically the flagship tonneau cover. It's got an all-metal roller that can retract and come forwards. That is electronically operatable, so you get some remote controls that come with it that you can use to open and close the cover, but you can also do it if your truck has the home garage door opener thing on the sun visor. So we have that in this truck, so we'll be linking that up and showing you how later on. But unlike the last time I installed one of those, which was about 2 years ago now, in which I literally just ran the power cable directly from the 12-volt battery all the way underneath the truck, basically cable tied to the chassis rails and then up into the bed. Today we're going to try and do a slightly cleaner install. So let's start there. What we're going to do is we're going to route the power cable for the tonneau cover through the cab of the truck, out a vent hole in the back of the truck. Don't give me a hard time about that. I've done it before in other vehicles. And then straight into the bed. And we're going to try and make it look as stock as possible and as tidy as possible. There's obviously no theoretical reason why we can't do what I did previously, which is just put the cable down and tie it to the chassis rail. But with it being an EV, there is a legitimate concern that at some point in the future the battery pack will need to be dropped for some reason, and if you've got cable ties holding a strange cable snaking past the battery pack, that could cause lots of extra questions. So what we're going to use is one of these. This is an adder fuse or a tap. It is a micro version of this particular product, and we're just going to install that into the fuse down there. There's a spare fuse. I believe it's fuse 25. I'll double check my notes. And then we are going to install a 10 amp fuse in here and just basically run the cable all the way down this side of the truck to the rear of the cab, across the back of the cab, and then out the vent in the back. And to do that, I brought some pretty sturdy rope with me to help fish the cables, because in order to get everything installed properly, we're going to have to be pushing and pulling cables in various directions. I also cut off the original ends of the power cable that came with this particular tonneau cover. They do give you way too much cable. It's much longer than it needs to be. I know that based on my previous install, and in this case we should have plenty of cable. So I have taken off the original inline fuse, which came with a little attachment here that you could put onto a terminal block, and obviously I've taken off the earth wire as well. I can add those later on using various components I have sitting around, and by also taking off these rather chunky pieces, it makes it easier to put things through holes. So let's get on with it. I know some people are going to be a little worried about me doing this, but I'm actually going to cheat to get the cable from inside the truck to outside the truck. I'm basically going to use the pressure equalization valves or acoustic valves or whatever you want to call them. They're little tiny rubber flaps that are on pretty much every vehicle today, and their purpose is to equalize the pressure when you shut the door so that you're not basically trying to smush air into a smaller place, and they open when you slam the door shut and the air then moves out of those little holes. I'm going to put a cable through those. I did it on my Chevrolet Bolt when I was wiring up the tow hitch. I've done it on other vehicles before, and while technically, yes, that does mean I then have a vent hole that doesn't properly close, the way they are designed and the way that the cable is going to exit shouldn't give me any concern about water ingress or anything like that. But in order for me to gain access to it, I've had to pop this little plate off. This holds, I believe this is part of the Bluetooth communications module. So I've just undone 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts and just pulled it forward. It is still connected. I don't need to go any further than that. And then I've just pulled this trim cover up a little bit. And then I'm going to use this quite sturdy rope to pass down out of the back of the truck and pass quite a large amount down so that it kind of dangles on the floor underneath the truck. That is so I can then grab and tie the cable that I'm going to pass through the back of the bed, or the front of the bed in this case, and then pull the two together, and hopefully it will all work. This needs to be pretty solid, because if it's too flexible, it's just going to get caught and not work properly. And the other thing I should note here is that while the seat closest to you from your perspective is very easy to fold down because it's designed to be folded down, and actually behind that seat is your emergency tire gear, on this side, you have to actually get in there and kind of wiggle around. There is a release mechanism, but it's not easy to get to, and there's no pull. So you have to kind of get in there and pull this little tab in just the right way to fold the seat down. There are some aftermarket mods you can get to add a pull, and I will be doing that at some point, because as you can see, there's quite a lot of space back here. So we've got the cable from the front of the bed into the back of the truck. Here is the cable with the ends chopped off that I chopped off earlier. I'm just going to feed it basically along this back wall. So I'm going to feed it behind this bit that I just took off. I'm then going to feed it behind this bit of kit here. And I'm going to feed it all the way through to that side. So keep watching them, and hopefully it will pop out the other side in a moment. You can see it going under there. Can you see it? Reach it, feel it, touch it? Yeah, there you go. Give it a pull. And we're gently going to feed that through. And then when this is all fed through, we can actually put this back up and we can put the seats back up, which would be lovely. We've got the cable all the way through to this front end of the truck, which is the front passenger area. And now it's time for me to trim the cables and get everything crimped on. The first thing I needed to do was to go to fuse 25 in this fuse box down here. Be careful because this is the airbag, so don't go pulling bits of trim panels off. That's why this one is still on, because this trim panel is attached back here and I don't want to disrupt the airbag. Everything else, it was really easy to take off. I have put the original 20 amp fuse from slot 25 in there, although on the F150 Lightning, fuse 25 is actually not used, it's a spare fuse, and so I've just put it in there really, so I've still got that fuse if I ever want to revert this back to stock. It's going to be really easy to do. I'm just going to have to pull all this cabling back out and uninstall the bed, and then it will look stock again. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into fuse 25, and I'm also, before I do that, going to crimp this cable onto here, and then on here there's an earth point just behind this panel here that you can't see. I've already removed the bolt. It is a 13mm bolt. It is a grounding point for many of the electrical systems in the truck, so I'm just going to slap this extra ring on after I have crimped the earth cable on. And as you might remember, and we still have this to remind us, the red cable in this bundle right here. So the red one, this one is the plus and this one is the negative. So we're going to put the earth crimp on that one, and we're going to crimp this one on here. A lot of people will say, are you going to solder it? No. If you're doing stuff from an automotive wiring point of view, it's generally best not to solder. Some people are like, you can solder or you can crimp, which is true. If you solder and then you put heat shrink around it and you're good at soldering and you use high quality solder and the cables are good, then yeah, go ahead. But crimping is actually more flexible for an automotive application. That's why crimps are around. They're also easier to use if you're an amateur. But I'm just going to crimp them and hope, fingers crossed, that I can do high quality crimps, because I only have 2 of these that are large enough to go over the earth bolt, and I only have 2 of these. Wish me luck. I know some people are going to say, why are you using your current clamp as a voltmeter? First, it has a voltmeter function, so why not? And secondly, my partner is currently tearing our garage apart in order to put insulation in and drywall in so that she can have a woodworking shop that is actually pleasant to be in the winter and the summer. So I don't know where my voltmeters have gone. I've got a couple accessible, but one of them has broken probes and one of them has a dead battery. This is easier and quicker. So I'm going to turn this to DC, and then I'm going to put the negative into negative and the positive into positive. And I don't know if you can see that, but it says 12.14 volts, which I think means it's a success. Before we actually get to installing the actual tonneau cover itself, I realized I wasn't very clear at the beginning of the video. This cable is the cable that is in the box with the Retrax PowertraxPRO XR. It's a special cable designed to plug into the bottom of the cassette, which obviously has a motor and a light in it. And I just took it out of the box in order to do this part of the install process before we tried to install the canister, because the canister sits here and it's a bit of a pain in the butt to actually install the wiring after you've installed the canister. Additionally, before we get any further, I'm going to poke the drain plugs through into the bed of the truck and out on the front end, so that again we can do that easily without having to wrestle it with the actual cassette of the tonneau cover in place. So I'm going to do that next, and yeah, as I said at the beginning, there is an easier way of doing it, but I think that how we did it is actually the smarter way, and it's less likely to upset garages who are working on your vehicle. We already installed this using the screws that came in the kit, but attached to some of the packing material were these brackets, which are designed exclusively for the powered version of these covers, because these motors produce a lot of torque and I think they've had issues with these breaking. And my original cover actually broke. It wasn't quite sitting right, and I think that it was because it didn't have these particular things on, and I just dropped a screw, but don't worry, I can find it. There we go. That is actually, I can already feel that feels a lot stronger, so I'm not going to complain. Let's do the other side. So the final thing we have to do is to get this underneath, like so. It slides underneath. Come on. This is the cover, and I'm getting attacked by wind, because why not? There we go. And then we just bolt this into place with 2 bolts. What we now have to do is the bit that drives me up the wall and down the other side. You basically have to measure the distance here at the canister from rail to rail, and then you need to measure it at each of these clamp points. So there are 4 clamps, 2 on each side, and you have to measure the distance across, and it has to be within 1/1/16 of an inch different between the front and all of those others. Ideally, if you can get it so it's exactly the same, that's perfect. So unfortunately, you have to wait until you've tightened everything up before then going back and untightening everything and then readjusting. So Em's going to come and help me measure, because Em used to be a machinist. I used to be an oboist, and while we are very good at measuring things with a micrometer when we're scraping the lay of the reed, I'm not good with big stuff. So we got it in and it's all done. The little plastic screws that are on each side of the rail need to be adjusted based on how wide or narrow the bed sits at various points, or rather the rail system sits at various points. Thanks to Em, we were able to get it perfect. So all 3 measurements were identical along the length of the bed. You take one by the canister and then one at each of the clamp points, and we got it perfect. So we've used a paint pen to mark the top of each of those little set screws, so we knew exactly how much to turn, and we've been able to get it completely right. The cable run I did was just long enough. You probably can't see it because the light is going, but it's right back there at the front of the canister and it fits perfectly. The previous installation we did had basically a bunch of cables at the front there, which didn't look great. We also have the drain plugs. We fitted those up. That's fantastic. And we pulled off the wrap. I guess now you'd like to see this working, but before I do that, I want to talk to you about this remote. You get 2 of them with the Retrax PowertraxPRO XR. Yes, still getting the name right. And well, look, this one here, it's got a button, it turns on the light. You can see the light come on. Some people actually hide them here so you can operate the tailgate, open the tailgate and then operate the tonneau cover. I'm not super happy about that because we carry expensive gear in the back of our truck and I would like no one to be able to easily access it. But we do use the HomeLink transmitter that is on the F150 Lightning, at least on our model year. It's designed to allow you to open garage doors, and it's that standard 3-button setup. With this, it operates on the same transmitter bandwidth as your regular garage door opener. So if you go through the learning process inside the vehicle like you would for any garage door opener, what I do is I program one of the buttons to be close and one of the buttons to be open. You just have to keep your finger on the button and you can get the truck to open and close the tonneau cover from inside the truck, which is kind of a bit of a boss move. But let's show you the remote control right now. So I'm going to close it. And again, you have to keep your hand on the button, otherwise it stops. So if I take my finger off, It gets to the end and it closes. Now, on our previous F150 Lightning, sometimes the tailgate did not want to close properly, so I am going to get Ortegas to close the tailgate, and there you go. That closes perfectly. There is the tiniest of gaps from the weather stripping, but considering that generally you're going to be driving forwards and the rain and water is going to be going that way, it's not as much of a worry for me as a hole at the front in terms of ingress from water, which is what we had with the old one. And this still works regardless of whether the bed is open or not, which I think is pretty cool. And we'll play you a video of me operating this from inside the truck as well, because that is the ultimate power move. Anyway, I would love to know if you would consider something like this for your electric pickup truck. I know obviously Rivian has one that you can order at the factory. They did have one and then they stopped doing it and now they're doing it again. Tesla obviously has its own that's built in and integrated into the vehicle, but I would love to know what your thoughts are on this. Is it too expensive? It is about $3,000. Is it just too much, or are you like me and you want to make sure that everything in the bed stays in the bed? Leave your thoughts below. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them below in our Discord chat room, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They are some of the more than 1,500 people that help make this channel possible by funding it through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and making sure we can be 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. There are a range of different tiers you can sign up for, from as little as $1 a month, or if you pay yearly, $10.08 a year. A massive welcome to our newest supporters, Ralph Koenig, Mr. Eldritch, Dwayne Adira, and Corey Singletray. To join our list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your week of fame. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll also find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at. The address is listed below. And of course, if you're in need of some swag, you'll find our swag store link in the down below as well. This month, we are celebrating Wrangling EV FUD with a fantastic t-shirt design by our in-house artist and animator Erin. Get yours today by heading to our Redbubble store. We've got some great content coming up, so make sure you're subscribed on PeerTube or YouTube, and we'll see you soon. We make new videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want more, the mighty algorithm thinks you'll like this video, but we also think that this one is well worth a look. See you soon, and as always, keep evolving.